Now in today's video, we're going to take a look at my transfer targets for the remaining 2 game weeks of the season as we look to secure a top 10k finish. Now before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as we're trying to hit 13,500 subscribers by the end of the season. I know it's a pretty odd number, but it's something that I want to achieve before the end of the season. It'd be absolutely amazing if we could do it. So of course, if you do enjoy any of the content, like I said, make sure you're liking and of course the main one, hitting that subscribe button. Let's start off then with our points total from game week 36. A little bit of a frustrating week, to be honest. We had some players that definitely delivered, and then of course there are some big names on here that we are unfortunately missing that did a lot of damage to our rank. Obviously no Saar, no Chris Wood, no Eze. They were the guys that obviously took us down on Sunday night. We had Bowen obviously pull us back a little bit, Munoz. But overall, there was just a disappointing week in terms of the front line and the overall attackers, to be honest. A blank for KDB, no goal for Visser and a yellow card. Mateta just making, well, just under, 60 minutes. A blank for Isak as well. And then as you can see, a little bit of salt to rub in the wounds on the bench there with an Areola 8-point, a Rodgers 6-pointer, and a Konza 5-pointer as well. I'm not too gutted about the Konza one, but I definitely at one point was contemplating playing Areola. I was also thinking, do I put Morgan Rodgers in ahead of Mateta because of his kind of lack of minutes? I was also thinking about a -4 taking out Mateta and bringing in Chris Wood. If we'd have done that, we still would have been on a red arrow, but we'd have only been 1 point off safety score for this game week. So a little bit frustrating. Probably ends the top 5k dream. After Saturday, we were in a really good position. I think we was around 6k, and I thought, you know what, if we have a decent Sunday and kick on, we definitely could break that top 5k. I do feel that is probably more of a pipeline dream now, to be honest. The main aim is just going to be trying to secure that top 10k finish. Obviously, we could still get ourselves a decent position, but I am a little bit disappointed that, unfortunately, we have just probably fallen at the final hurdle for that top 5k finish. But is what it is. We'll still take a juicy top 10k finish. Before we take a look at any transfer targets, let's take a look at how the team is lining up for this game week then. And as you can see here, this is probably what I would go for with my bus team if I was to make absolutely 0 transfers. Now, ignore captaincy. I'm very much undecided heading into this game week who I want to give the armband to. I think Brian is a pretty decent shout, especially considering the obviously capitulation of Fulham. I think Marco Silva is probably going to leave in the summer as well, and I think they'll be overall on the beach at this point. I don't think they can qualify for European football anymore, so I definitely think that is a fixture to go and target as well. I'm really tempted with potentially Rodgers as well with the armband against Tottenham, considering how poor they've been over the last 20 games. Them and Manchester United have been pretty poor as a side, but as you can see, we're in a pretty decent position. The only place I probably would say that needs an upgrade is definitely going to be the striker position. It's not an ideal fixture for Alexander Isak against Arsenal, despite their recent poor run, but he's just not been hitting the big heights recently, has he? Mateta, not even making 60 anymore. He's been a really frustrating own. I wish I'd have taken the -4, got Chris Wood in for this week. He'd have had West Ham, and we probably would have just been maybe looking at a roll heading into this game week. But this is the position we're in. We've got 1 free transfer. Let me talk you through my potential transfer targets heading into this week then. So let's start off first with the most consensus popular option heading into this game week, and of course one of the most transferred in players so far heading into game week 37. It is going to be Ollie Watkins, and there's very good reason for that. He is playing Tottenham and Manchester United, and I saw a stat floating around on Twitter today that Manchester United and Tottenham within their last 20 games have only won 3 games, and that has been Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester within the Premier League, should I add onto that statement. So they're in really poor Premier League form, and these games for both of these clubs are perfect positionally, excellently for Aston Villa. Now, of course, Tottenham will be rotating because they'll have the biggest game of their season, potentially of the past 5 years, really. You know, factor in maybe that Champions League final they got to on the Poch. This is probably second to that, and especially what it means for the club next season as well. It is absolutely imperative. So there's going to be a lot of rotation, I think, for the Villa game in game week 37. Then post that, in game week 38, Manchester United will either be on the piss because on the Wednesday they've been out, they've won. They'll probably be a little bit hungover and not really care what the Premier League means and whatever happens. Or they'll be very much down in the dumps. They know that their summer window is going to look very, very different and probably a little bit of projection. And you might see some players maybe looking at that exit door with no Champions League. Obviously, there's a big financial offer coming for Bruno Fernandes. You think maybe people like Ahmad potentially might be looking at the door as well if they think, right, we've got no Champions League football next season. Why would I stay at Manchester United? Obviously, that is one of the main lucrative kind of offers that a player can get is Champions League football. So it's absolutely imperative for both of these clubs. So there's going to be some rotation and, of course, the emotions following that. Obviously, Villa, on the other hand, they need to go and get Champions League football. Again, for their own self-interest reasons, for qualification, for player interest and who they want to sign in the summer, and obviously kick this squad on, which is what I imagine the plan would be for Unai Emery. And I think Ollie Watkins, who's seen decent minutes over the past few weeks, in pretty decent form as well, with 4 goal involvements in his past 5 games, could be an absolutely fantastic option. Now, of course, he is going to be playing against a heavily rotated Tottenham side for this week. He could realistically be one of my captain contenders as well for that game on Friday night. I don't hate that as an idea. I really think that could potentially be the play heading into this game week. The only thing I don't like about that is I don't usually like to captain strikers. I prefer captaining midfielders. Of course, you get an extra point for a goal, extra point if they manage to keep a clean sheet as well. So there is usually that added advantage of course, going for a midfielder. But Ollie Watkins definitely ticking a lot of boxes for me, and I think would be the right player that if we were to make any transfers this week, would be the one that I'm very, very tempted by. Moving on to some fun and interesting picks, though. Obviously, we are towards the back end of the season. We do have to kind of take a look at some potential fun, short-sighted picks as well. And those two are Jamie Vardy and Beto. Now, the reason that I've selected Jamie Vardy is he is chasing down 200 Premier League goals. Of course, he has announced that he is going to be leaving Leicester City in the summer. So 200 for one club is a very, very impressive feat, considering the age that he did join the Premier League. And I think the Ipswich fixture is definitely one where he will be able to target that. If you watch the Brentford game, they were pretty woeful at the back. Very fortunate that Brentford didn't get at least 2 penalties within that game. And you feel that is just written in the stars for Jamie Vardy to go and tick off his 200th Premier League goal. So I do like that as a pick. He's got himself an assist at the weekend against Nottingham Forest, a goal in the game before as well. And I do feel he'll probably just want to end his Leicester City career in a really high fashion and, of course, secure that 200 goal mark. So I think that could be a fun differential pick if we want to go down that route. Obviously, I'm leaning more towards the Watkins route, but the Vardy emotional pick route is definitely kind of screaming out to me a little bit as well. Finally, we've got Beto as the other option. Southampton at home. Still, despite recent improved performances defensively, they are one of the worst sides over the past 10 game weeks for XG goals conceded. Sorry, we covered that in yesterday's stats preview video. If you want to go and take a look at that, it is available on the channel. Obviously, as well, there's some interest from Leeds United as well. Maybe Everton want him to put him in the shop window, and he'll probably maybe be looking at getting himself a couple goals just to kind of add that extra zest. Maybe he wants that big money move as well. Maybe a little bit more money from Leeds United as well. That potentially could be something that obviously does sway that decision. So again, could be a nice, fun and interesting pick. But out of the two, I probably would lean more towards Jamie Vardy. Okay, let's take a look at how the team then is going to line up heading into game week 37 with, of course, the transfers that we have just spoken about. I do feel like the sensible play to secure our top 10k status is, of course, going to be bringing in Ollie Watkins. I can't take out Mateta for Watkins. I don't have the budget to do that. So, of course, we will be looking to take out Alexander Isak. Of course, he could be a big threat to our overall effective ownership, which could be a little bit of maybe one of those where I potentially just need to think about it a little bit more, but I do think Watkins is going to be a very popular pick with kind of amongst the engaged managers, especially those within the top 10k as well. And I think a lot of other managers will maybe looking at that Alexander Isak fixture, either bench him or, like myself, will probably offload him. In terms of captaincy, like I said, I am very much undecided still. It could be Mbeumo, it could be Salah, it could be Watkins. There are so many great options this week with interesting fixtures, shall we say, and obviously the big boys in recent weeks, the premium assets, haven't really been delivering the goods, so maybe it is time to potentially look elsewhere in terms of that as a strategy. In terms of game week 38 then, we do head into the final week of the season with just one free transfer available, and as you can see, that one free transfer that I have potentially earmarked here is going to be taking out Mohamed Salah and bringing in Bukayo Saka. We could also do KDB out as well if we wanted to upgrade him, and like I said, bring in Saka for that one. Obviously give Saka the armband as well against Southampton. Obviously Arsenal will have pretty much nothing to play for at that point. Champions League football will, I imagine, be fairly secure within that position already as well. So give him the armband. Hopefully he can deliver some magic with Southampton down, because we do usually see quite big score lines on the final day of the season. It's not out of place. You have a lot of teams that obviously rest, put in certain players, stuff like that, but I think game week 38 is always an interesting one, not to plan too much ahead a little bit with it, because as you can see, the team's in a pretty decent state. I'm very, very happy with all the players that we have got in there. But obviously, if we get, like, say, an early leak team news or something like that, where we know a rogue player's maybe playing up front, then that, of course, potentially could sway our decisions. But right now, my thought process is to take out Mohamed Salah, have a gamble on Saka with the captain for the final game week. We could also take out KDB, would obviously do a little bit less effective ownership damage if I do feel that Salah potentially could go off against Crystal Palace. But with their recent performances and results, I am a little bit hesitant that that potentially could be the case for Mohamed Salah and for Liverpool. That is going to conclude today's video. Of course, if you did enjoy it, make sure you're liking, commenting and subscribing, and thank you very much for watching.